big news coming up is obviously the next match week, and that's match week 25. Let's preview it now, gents. This is an interesting match week because when we think back to when these teams met earlier in the season, we're in that situation now where they're meeting for the second time of the campaign. Things have changed drastically for some of these teams since they met earlier on the season, around October in the fall time. So Arsenal against Manchester City. City edged that game last time out, but you can clearly see which team has kicked on since then. Nick Mendola, what do you expect this weekend from Arsenal, Manchester City? Because Arteta knows City very well. So there's one coach who is going to kind of put together a master plan like he did in the FA Cup last season. He can get the better of Pep Guardiola, can't he?
Yeah, he can. My thing with this match, which I'm super excited about, is I think Arsenal is they're improved a lot. It helps when Aubameyang's flying and Saka's flying, and who knows if we're going to see Thomas. That might be the key point here. But what City showed us, I would argue, brought upon the first time they played Arsenal this year, as well as Liverpool did the same thing. They forced Aubameyang onto an island out on the left, and I feel like it took him 2 months to figure out how to get out of there. And that's what I'll be looking at, because as much as I love Saka, and I think he can cause a lot of problems, when Aubameyang's finishing the way he did, think of those goals this weekend. That was the penalty, whatever. But that first one, when he's driving towards the right and he just snaps off this quick shot back towards the near post, and the keeper's like, oh no. There's that sort of elite level of, believe it or not, I think there are comparisons in the finishing styles of Kane and Aubameyang for this, where it's not always the same finish into the same part of the net. So he's the key for me. And Pep right now is on a different defensive planet to even then, and that was a shutout.
Andy, anything to add on this game? Because, Arsenal, they regressed, obviously, after winning the FA Cup last season, and they seem like they figured it out under Arteta, or at least against the big boys, but just a really strange team to kind of predict how they're going to play week to week, right?
Yeah, almost as difficult to predict as Leeds United, and that's really saying something. I think Nick's right to highlight Aubameyang there as being the key going to this game, because you have to almost look and force yourself to find a way that Arsenal have a chance in this game to hang with Manchester City, and he is probably the answer. And so, based on what we've talked about this week with Manchester City and what Guardiola has done to turn this team into a defensive juggernaut, I think he'll have a plan for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to, again, probably, whether he's going to play through the middle, whether he's going to play on the left, cutting inside, wherever it's going to be, he's not going to have the looks at goal that he had on the weekend, and cutting off that supply to him, I think, is going to be the number one priority for Manchester City defensively. And for all the talk of what they're doing defensively, their possession numbers are also still really, really strong. So there's a bit of kind of defending by possession, defending by attacking that exists with them. And so if Thomas Partey is not going to be able to play and Aubameyang is not going to be effective, I don't know what Arsenal do in this game to not get beaten 3-0 by a team that is so heads and shoulders above everybody else in the league.
And in great form. Like John Stones, I can just see it. I'm going to predict it now. When he empties his pockets at the end of the game, when he gets home, car keys, wallet, probably Aubameyang as well. It's going to be in there. So just going to say that's my prediction for that game. But okay, I got my popcorn ready here because Liverpool Everton is coming up this weekend. Merseyside derby. This was memorable, but for probably all the wrong reasons earlier on this season when they played out an entertaining draw at Goodison Park. Van Dijk got injured, obviously, by Pickford. Big moment of Liverpool's season, as we knew then and have seen more and more so as the season's progressed. Nick, is it fair to say that both of these teams have underachieved since that meeting? And as we go into this game, are Everton the favourites to win it?
Oh, that's a good question. Everton, to me, the biggest issue has been an inconsistency. When they are on song, as you like to say, it's a team that's hard to mess with. Richarlison, a physical, powerful, tricky player who can get the job done. And then when he's not there, you're kind of like, oh, and he hasn't scored in a while. So, between Hamas, are we confident enough that they're going to get the job done? And the reason I say that is because the difference between Liverpool's game against Leipzig and Liverpool's game against, correct, help me guys. They just lost to, even in that City game, is who made the mistakes, because Liverpool's goals yesterday were gifted to them. And that's great. Mane and Salah are going to score, and they didn't give up much of anything at the back. But that's the difference to me between most of Liverpool's bad performances and their good performances. I think they're on about the same level. I think they're still a really good team. They're just not getting those moments. And do I trust Everton to sort that out? And I'm just not at that point. I'll make a comparison to when we talked about West Ham earlier. There's something in the air once you've won that changes how your team operates. And I'm waiting for either one of those teams to take all the investment that they've had. And that's one of the reasons I believe in Leicester right now, is in their history, they've done it. They've kind of crossed that bridge, and I'm waiting for Everton or West Ham to do that.
Andy, what about you? You're looking forward to this Merseyside derby, because Liverpool had a lot of critics, but Jurgen Klopp's kind of come out firing after that Champions League win and saying, we didn't slip up when everyone expected us to. So defensively, can they hold it together? And I guess Calvert-Lewin, his fitness status is key to this battle as well, isn't it?
I mean, I'm looking at the goals scored here for Everton this season, and I would say that's probably a pretty good observation. 13 for Calvert-Lewin this season. James Rodriguez with 5. Nobody else has more than 3 on that entire team. And Gylfi Sigurdsson's 3, I think a couple are from the penalty spot, 1 probably a free kick. Michael Keane has 3. So it drops off very, very quickly. And all of that, more numbers I'm looking at here as you guys are talking. Expected goals for this Everton team. Anybody want to guess out of 20 teams where they rank?
13.
15.
Ooh. They are bottom 6 in the Premier League in terms of expected goals for, and they're also bottom half in expected goals against as well. So I feel like they have massively overachieved for the majority of the season. And you can't base everything on those 2 metrics, but if you look at the team and the way that they play, they're not exciting. They're not creative or inventive. That there's a little bit of flair when James Rodriguez is on his day, but that's about it. They're not as solid defensively as they probably should be. 1, given the lack of offensive kind of adventure that they go on, but 2, also for having Carlo Ancelotti as the manager. And so it's just, it's not a team that I take seriously when we talk about this top 6 and top 5 and top 4. And I think for a Liverpool team that, I'm not going to jump off board yet, that I still think is going to finish top 4. I don't think Liverpool have that much trouble with them this weekend. And maybe this is the one where they can get a big win. They can stop the negative momentum and start to right the ship for the rest of the season.
It's a huge game. For either team, if you win this game, not just because it's 3 points, but you beat your rivals, positive momentum. And we're entering the business end of the season now, lads. I mean, we got 14, 15 game weeks to go. This is when it starts to get very serious. And all of a sudden, it feels like it's got here very quickly with all the midweek games and weekend and just the congested schedule. So, lots to look forward to. I will be looking forward to going to St Mary's Stadium this weekend, I think. Southampton host Chelsea. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to expect for this one for the Saints. Obviously, earlier on the season, they drew 3-3 at Stamford Bridge with a Yannick Vestergaard equaliser late on. And that kind of highlighted all of Chelsea's defensive flaws under Frank Lampard, which they've since cleaned up under Thomas Tuchel, which we've spoken about. So Chelsea have definitely improved. For Saints, I mean, the question is, will they ever win again? They've come off a club worst in a 135-year history. They have never lost 6 games in a row in the league, and they've just done that. Yes, VAR decisions, injuries, maybe running out of steam has come into that. But Nick, Saints, Chelsea, what you're looking forward to in this game? Because if you think about it, this could be a really good game, open, attacking, entertaining. But what I've just said about both those teams maybe suggests it'll be tighter than it was earlier in the season.
In these last 3 games we discussed, and I'm assuming, knowing where you're going, that we'll get to this on the 4th game as well. I look at that kind of guy in the middle of the park who controls things, and whether he's there or not there, in form or out of form, matters to me. Rodri, I think, has been incredible for about the last 2 months for Man City. Everton, on the flip side, missing Allen. That's, if he was playing, I'd probably tell you I think they win against Liverpool. I look at Saints and Chelsea. I look at what Jorginho has meant to Tuchel's system. And I look at a former Chelsea player as one who's going to be the key here. Because I think and he's done well against his former club because he's a fireball. When Oriol Romeo is going, and at his very best, I would not want to be on the same pitch as him as an opposition player. And I think he hasn't been at his best for a couple of weeks now. If he's going, Ward-Prowse has less to worry about trying to orchestrate stuff. Big Yannick Vestergaard is in better position as well. So that's what I'm going to look to here, because I don't think this is going to be anywhere near a 6-goal game. I think this could be a 1-0 or a 2-1 or a 2-0 game. And how Romeu plays, if you tell me in advance, I'll tell you who I think wins.
And I'm looking forward to being on when you go to St Mary's now, the press is sat right behind the benches. So I'm looking forward to seeing Hasenhüttl and Tuchel going at it. Obviously, both coaching the Bundesliga for a long time, know each other very well. So I think that's another factor which makes this game even tighter to figure out. So, Andy, any thoughts on these two teams and where they've gone throughout the season as they've kind of dipped up and down, it's fair to say?
Yeah, I would just say it's been hard to watch Saints fall off the face of the earth, really, over the last. It has, because they were so enjoyable early in the season, and not just because they play some good stuff, but they're a hardworking team as well. And anytime you kind of marry those two things together within the same team, typically you're going to get good results, but it's going to be really enjoyable to watch. And they've got a bunch of individuals that are enjoyable to watch and pretty easy to root for. So, you know, they're safe from relegation. We have a weekly call every week where Joe, we have to kind of talk you off the ledge a little bit with Southampton. They're safe from relegation this season. Don't worry about it. But they've got some rebuilding to do, I think, in the summer for sure.
It's all about the FA Cup for Southampton now. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, moving on to the next big game in match week 25, West Ham United against Tottenham. Big London derby. I think it's underrated by people who maybe aren't as familiar with London, but it's a huge, huge derby. And it's going to be, I mean, it may not be as crazy as the last game, right? Lanzini, last minute, Spurs 3-0 up. And then, of course, Lanzini coming in and scoring late on. Spurs have been more pragmatic since, right? Are West Ham the favourites going into this one, Nick?
No. I think it's going to be close. I think we still might see 3-3, but instead of 3 goals first, 3 goals later, it's 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. I'll tell you why. The defense at Spurs has been a real problem. Andy's pointed it out, rightfully so. The center backs have been an issue. Harry Kane, there's no one on this team right now, especially with Diop way down the pecking order, who is going to be able to handle him. So I'm expecting goals. And again, I'll stay on, let me stay on song. Let me stay on brand here. Declan Rice, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, 2 players who may well go about telling the tale of this game by their performances. So I do expect goals, and I'm actually very excited for this one. I think there are going to be a lot of moments that could swing it either way, and Moyes and Mourinho are going to be ready to tangle.
Andy, finish us off with this. What are your thoughts heading into this big London derby?
Nick, you're wrong. West Ham are favorites for this one, and that's
how weird of you.
It's a credit to them just as much, if not more, than it's a slight on Spurs. West Ham, we talked about them this week. They know who they are. They have an identity. They show up to play essentially the same way, same ideas every single game. It's not that at Tottenham. There is no idea. There's this idea of, well, they become a Mourinho team. They become very good defensively. They don't have a single good defender at the club. It's not going to happen. So then you have to pack the midfield in. You completely leave yourself helpless in the attacking half. And I do find it a bit ironic. And this is the Mourinho slander for the week. It took Jose Mourinho coming in and becoming the manager for them to actually become a one-man team with Harry Kane. It for all the talk over the years of that being the case with Mauricio Pochettino as manager, it was never the case. It was always about the collective. And part of that is a lot of the players that are still around from those days have now aged out of the primes of their careers. And so Mourinho doesn't maybe have quite as much to work with, but they are now a one-man team, and it is all about Harry Kane. And if Harry Kane doesn't score one, assist one, they're going to lose. They're going to lose every game if he is not just at the very, very top of his game every time he steps on the field.
There you go, an incredibly optimistic valuation of Tottenham from Andy Edwards, who does support the Spurs. Let's wait and see how they get on this weekend against West Ham. Looking at some other big games, Fulham, Sheffield United coming up this weekend. That team's huge at the bottom of the table. Both those teams had some momentum in the relegation battle in recent weeks. Aston Villa against Leicester City, huge Midlands derby. Both teams doing well this season. and Brighton against Crystal Palace, the M23 derby, one of those rivalries where no one can really figure out how it quite happened, but it is a rivalry and it's going to be a big one. So we'll keep you updated on Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com as Nick does his very best. What was that, a seagull or an eagle impression?
It's a seagull. It's a seagull.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. I can see that. And yeah, gents, a pleasure as always. Pro Soccer Talk will keep you covered with all the latest analysis on the Premier League. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thanks, lads.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long and join us at the weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern on NBCSN for Premier League mornings, and sign up for Peacock Premium, where you'll have access to 175 exclusive live games all season long.